Dorian Yates, what did he contribute to Mr. Olympia, to the era? And when you think about him as a bodybuilder, what's the first thing you think about, and what did he contribute to the sport?
Well, Dorian was one of the first guys to step on stage, as like a mass monster type guy with a lot of big muscles, a lot of good separation, conditioning. He had the big muscles and the conditioning that nobody had ever brought to the stage before. He was the first guy to ever do that.
Yeah, and you think he did that probably because he was on his own with no people surrounding him, and in his mind, that was the way he decided to attack that puzzle. He said, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah, yeah. He figured it out for himself, basically.
And I think the conditioning he brought, meant that everybody else on stage was like, man, if Dorian's going to come that conditioned, that means I got to work my butt off next year a lot more than I would have normally done. I mean, you see Dorian in like 92, man. I mean, he looks like a skeleton in his face. I mean, he's so conditioned, but it meant to everybody else on the stage, you better step your game up if you want to play.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's basically the guy who sets the trend, on the sport. It's always Mr. Olympia, the winner for that year or whatever. And if you are fortunate enough to win, 3, 4, 5, that's when you control an era, and then you establish an era also by doing that.
And then you establish the standards, and then you can kind of own those standards if you deliver every year, right? And then the judges start to think of you as the standard, right? And as long as you can maintain it, you can hold your era, but there'll always be some breaking point, right?
Yeah. You're gonna always, get to a point where you can't continue to do it. It's only so long that you can hold that, type of conditioning. So only so many years or whatever I'm trying to say. You're gonna always get caught up with Father Times. Always.
Yeah. Always, yeah. Well, Dorian had his tricep torn. I mean, he competed that last Olympia with it was almost torn. I mean, he said he was worrying about it tearing when he was posing. And that,
exactly. I remember.
You remember, yeah. And that really ended his career. You were there, yeah? Oh, wow. And so if Dorian brought that to the table, what was your era about? What will people look back and say, the Ronnie Coleman era was all about this? What did you bring?
Well, I was trying to do the same thing Dorian was doing, but just on a high weight scale, I got all the way up to like 295, on stage with the conditioning and stuff. And, I don't know how Dorian went, but I think mine was just a little bit higher than his. Just a little bit, not too much more, but a little bit higher. And, with a longer range too. The longer you're up there, the harder you got to work for the most part. That's the way it was for me. That's the way I looked at it, because every year you're trying to outdo the last year or get better from the last year. And that's what I was trying to do every single year, get better from last year. And you really have to put in some work to do that because you know how hard you had to work the year before. And you trying to work harder, diet harder, train harder, sacrifice more if that's possible.